Hey everyone, it's Tox from CritHappen.com. Thanks for watching and welcome back. I'm a little sun-bleached. I've had a wild competitive weekend outside with my critical kids, so I've got a little bit of sun, so I apologize for the look. But we're not here to look at me. We're here to look at some more important stuff. We're actually here bunkered or hunkered down inside the office because we're talking about war games. What war games? We're talking about Ars Victor. Ars Victor is a two-player game that is a full war game that says you can play it in 60 minutes. That baffled me. When I first got in touch with Steven, the designer, he said, I've got a game I'd like you to take a look at. Would you consider doing a preview for it? I said, I don't know. What is it? Let me take a look. And he sent me to arsvictor.com. And now it's a Kickstarter, which you can check out. We'll put links in the video information below. But it was skeptical to say the least. I played Warhammer a lot when I was younger, when I had hair, and had a lot of fun with that. And the thought of a war game that could scratch that itch, that could be tactical, be strategic, allow for army building, allow for combat, allow for balanced combat, allow for routing and shoving people around and cover and terrain and all that stuff, working with a little bit of cardboard, a little bit of cards, and an hour really just didn't seem to work for me. I was like, man, I'm gonna have to see it just to see if it can do this. So these are some of the things that I hope we're gonna be able to cover as we go through this stuff around Ars Victor. So before we do anything, let's talk about setting up the board, which is very unique for Ars Victor. So before we get into the board of Ars Victor, you need to know the goal. The goal is simple. You and your opponent are going to have a glory total. How you get that, we'll talk about in a second. But the object is to reduce your opponent's glory to 0. And you can do that by either destroying their units on the board, having your HQ on the board and their HQ off the board, or by holding on to capture points in the middle of the board. So let's talk a little bit about the board itself before we get into details around that. This is one of the more unique things about Ars Victor. These little cardboard pieces are the board. And as you see, they're hexagonal and they interlock. They're double-sided, so you can flip them around. And they're modular so that you and your opponent are each going to pick them, put them together, and make up a board. And it'll be different each time. Now, yes, as you can imagine, the different terrain is going to impact either slowing your movement, is going to put you in cover, is going to allow for different aspects inside of the game. The nice thing about that is that while it may seem like a lot from a board perspective, there's a nice little cheat sheet that has a little matrix to show you what each of those areas do to each of the different units. So, bookending the board is this nice little glory track, and I'll try and snap this together here real quick and show it to you. But this glory track is going to just be a number track, and you're going to have a counter on it, and you're going to be tracking when you defeat an opponent, when you score glory based on capture points and things like that, and having your HQ on the board, you're going to be decreasing their total. So if we each started the game with 20 glory, we're both going to be on 20, and we're both going to be moving down as you defeat my units, as I defeat yours, and we accomplish different objectives throughout the game. But the board is really nice because it's completely modular and can make it different every single game that you play it. Now we have a board put together, how do we have units? Well, there's two types of units. There's going to be your Vanguard, which are going to be 4 units that you're going to place on the board in the back 2 hex rows of your side of the board. And then you're going to have your reserves, which are going to be off the board. So let's take a second, look at some of the units, and then show you some of the things that are on those units, and then we'll come back and show you about how to actually get them on the board. So units. Let's take a look at some units. You can go to arsvictor.com or you can go to the Kickstarter page and check out a lot more. But here's just an example of some of them to give you an idea of the flair, the color, some of the things that are involved with them. But let's take a look at one specifically and walk you through what some of the different types of things on a unit are. So the first thing is the name. So let's take a look at conscripts. Conscripts has the name in the upper right. In the lower right, you'll see a shield with 5. That's the health of the conscripts. If they ever take 5 or more damage, they are considered killed, and you're going to lose glory. Now, the glory of a unit counts as 2 different things. The first thing is when you're building your army, you have up to 80 points of glory to spend on all the different units in the game. You can combine them however you want. There's no factions, no restrictions, no anything like that. If you just want to have a bunch of conscripts to count you up to 80 points, you can do that. But here's the trick. Whatever the gap between your army cost and 80 points is how much glory you start the game with. So remember we said however much glory points you have, once you reach 0, you're dead and you lose the game. So if I were to make an army that, say, had 60 points worth of glory, I would start the game with 20 glory points. That means you have complete flexibility and customization as to how you want to go ahead and build your army. You can make something really, really heavy and not have a lot of glory points, or you can make something really, really light and have a lot of glory points. It's all up to you and how you do that. That was a really nice, flexible piece of the system that I really enjoyed. Now, additionally, you'll notice the 3. That's their glory points, that little box with 3 in it. So one conscript in your army is going to count as 3 glory points. When you lose them, you'll also conversely lose 3 glory points from your total. Now, down the left side, there's going to be 3 different things you want to look at. In the upper left is going to be their melee attack, and that it has no range on it because you have to be right adjacent to a character, which is 1 hex to 1 hex. And they're going to throw 3 white dice, which is what the 3 boxes represent. Then below that, in the center on the left side, you're going to see a yellow arrow and a green arrow. The yellow arrow means that the unit can run, which is an advanced command, and you can tell them to run, which is up to 2 hexes. Then the green arrow is a walk, which you could command them to walk 1 hex if you wanted to as well. You'll also notice that little stop. Several different characters will have different abilities that will be in addition to the normal rules. The stop will actually allow you to convert a push into a hit. Now, what is a push? Really simple. A push is an arrow. A hit is a skull. So if you rolled a push with the conscripts on any of the dice, you could convert it into a skull and score a hit with it, which is really kind of cool. Now, in addition, down below, you'll see the ranged attack. Now, this has both dice that it's going to throw, in the conscript's case, 1 red and 2 white, and it shows the range, which is 2 hexes away. That means you can't do that if someone is adjacent to you. So, there's a lot happening on a unit, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Am I going to attack with 3 white dice melee, or am I going to attack with 2 white dice and a red die, which is obviously a little stronger, for a range attack of up to 2 hexes away? And while they have a good amount of health with 5 hit points, they're worth a little bit of glory. They're going to count against me if I lose them, obviously, and they're going to count towards my army total as well. But you don't just take these guys and put them onto the battlefield. It's not that simple. See, every warrior needs to carry some type of banner into the field, and this is where things get really interesting. So let's take a look at the banners and at commands and how you're actually going to tell your units to do what you need them to do. So the first thing to know is once you've built your army, you're going to separate 4 units out to be your vanguard. Those are going to be the first 4 units that are going to start on the board. And they're going to be placed in any hex in the back 2 rows of hexes on your side of the mat. Now once you've done this, you're going to attach banners to them. And banners, everyone's going to have a banner that's double-sided. There are multiple different banners, but they're all the same. Essentially, you have one side that shows spades and clubs, and another side that shows diamonds and hearts. Now, what does that matter? Well, here's what you do. Let's say I'm going to bring these conscripts into play, and I want to bring them into play on this club side. I'm going to place them like this, where the conscripts will cover up that banner, and there's a little circle here. That circle is going to allow me to keep track of damage using counters. So I have nice little counters here with like 1s, 2s, and 3s. They're going to go on there and damage will stay on units. Now what does the club mean? What does the spade mean? What do the diamonds and hearts mean? Great, great questions. Once you have your units on the board, you're going to draw a hand of 5 command cards. The command cards are going to look very, very familiar. They actually look like playing cards. They're going to have different values for each suit, spades, diamonds, clubs, and hearts, from values 2 to 7. So for example, let's take this 4 of clubs. The 4 of clubs has 4 command points. When I play this at the beginning of my turn, I'm going to take 4 command point tokens. Then I can use those on any unit that has a club banner underneath it. Conversely, I can use the command points for anyone that has a spade banner as well, because they are the same color. But black doesn't go with red, red doesn't go with black. So what that means is if I want to command a diamond banner unit or a heart banner unit, I can't do that at all. So to recap really quickly, you're going to bring a unit onto the field with your vanguard to start the game. Or as units come onto the field, you're going to also give them a banner. The banner will be either clubs, spade, hearts, or diamonds, and it's your choice. You get to pick when you bring them on the field, because you're going to know what 5 cards are in your hand, and you're going to know, do I have a lot of diamonds and I need to have diamond banners? Do I have diamonds and hearts and I need to have red banners? You're going to be able to make those strategic choices, and then you're also going to be able to make choices of, do I use my 2 points now or wait for later? Do I use my 7 points now and wait for later? You would think that having more command points means good things, but it doesn't always necessarily equate to that. What it really equates to is using your command points to your advantage to either advance a unit or assault a unit. And that's really the 2 options you have. You can either advance, which means that you will move your character forward. Now, remember before we talked about the conscripts and they have run and walk? If a unit walks, they're fine, they can attack. If a unit runs, they cannot attack. So, advancing allows you to move forward. Assaulting allows you to move and attack. However, remember, if you ran, you're not allowed to attack. So you're going to have some choices to make. Now, in addition to that, because of the spades, clubs, diamonds, and hearts, you're going to have to make decisions on what command cards you play to give you points to then invest in your characters to get the efficiency out of your army on that turn. Sounds complex. It's really not. And I think here's why. We all know as gamers spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds. We all know the numbers of playing cards very easily. It comes very naturally when you're looking at the board to see, okay, here's what I have in my hand. I think because I have 4 red cards, I'm going to put a bunch of heart and diamond card or banners out there so that I can make sure to be as effective as I can in the beginning of the game. Now that may hurt you later in the game if you don't draw red cards, but there are always those strategic decisions to make in any kind of warfare game, and I think this system, while at first it may look overly simple, is actually really, really well done to add to the streamlining effect of the time that it takes to play this game. I think they did a really, really good job with that piece of it. Now, let's talk about HQ. We talked earlier about how to gain glory. You can gain glory by defeating your opponent's units and reducing their glory by their glory cost, or you can take control of capture points. Capture points are little hexes that will go on the map after you build them in the center row of the 3 tiles in the map. And they have purple outlines, and they have ones for different terrains, so they'll match up to the terrains that they cover. You won't ever have to worry about losing the abilities of those terrain types when you build out maps to make your choices. The command points will give you a point of glory, or you will reduce your opponent's glory by 1 for each command point that you own. Now, in addition to having just your regular unit, like a conscript, for example, sitting on there and getting a point, you can have an HQ. Now, HQs are interesting. They look like little Tetris pieces that come down and, you make points out of. But essentially what happens is, once at the beginning of the game, when you're setting up your army and you reveal your army to your opponents, you're going to take a unit and put it under the HQ. And you're going to give it a banner just like you did before. So an HQ is going to be very, very visible. They're going to have the HQ symbol at the top. You're going to have the same banner type and the same choices to make with your command points and your command cards. But the HQs are very important. If you have your HQ on the board and your opponent does not, you're going to reduce their glory because you are winning the battle by leadership. If you have your HQ a little more aggressive than more normal people may do, and actually have your HQ take over a command point, you're going to reduce your opponent's glory by 2 versus 1 for having your HQ on there. Now, obviously, the challenge is your HQ is now out there and it's open area. So the HQs can kind of be thought of as the king of your army. Some people may want to protect them, some people may want to push them out. But either way, they offer you a few options in terms of scoring a little more glory than you normally would with just standard army pieces, which is kind of nice. So at its core, that is what Ars Victor is. You are going to start your turn by playing a command card. You're going to take command points. You're going to give those commands to your units. You're going to advance them, and you're going to assault with them. You're going to kill your opponent's units. You're going to detract from their glory. You're going to take over command or capture points, and you're going to reduce their glory more. You're going to push your HQ out on the board and potentially gain more advantages off of that. And there's a lot of different things happening. But can it be done in 60 minutes? Can it be done fun in 60 minutes? And is it fun? Well, I'm here to tell you yes to all three. Surprisingly, smashing down all of my skepticism, this game can be played in 60 minutes, including setting up your army. Once you play a game or two with the base or pre-constructed, I guess, way to say it, armies, you will start to learn how the different units interact together, what they do with each other, and what units are good in what situations. You'll also learn what units are really good with the different types of cover. As I mentioned before, there's a cheat sheet which fits all on one page, and you can have that right next to you, and you can say, okay, this guy in cover does this ability does this. The beauty of this game is that while there is a lot to it, and we didn't even talk about cover, about routing an enemy and pushing an enemy and following up with an enemy, we didn't talk about a lot of things that are involved with the actual deeper mechanics. We just talked about the top level mechanics. Even though there's a lot going on, there is a simplicity built into this that doesn't take away from that wargamer itch. And that was one of the more exciting things about this game for me. Is that actually the thing that really kind of I walked away with is I really wish there were more units. There's a lot of units, and there's a lot of varying units of strength and size and speed and things like that. But I really wanted more units because it was just so much fun playing it with the units we used. So we did have a really good time with that. So the really interesting things about this is that there are a lot of complex strategies. There is cover between the different types of terrain. There is slow moving effects, so if you move into certain types of terrain, you're going to be slowed down. There are different effects from different abilities that the cards are going to have, or excuse me, the units are going to have to jump and move around the board and when to push people out and when to hold people back. And on top of all that, you've got your banners. Between the spades, the hearts, the clubs, and the diamonds, what to choose, when to choose, and if you choose too much of one type, are you going to put yourself into a pigeonhole? Are you going to diversify? There's so many different choices, but the nice thing about it is because of the way it's put together, because of the simplicity of the suit design, because of the simplicity of just 2 to 7 from a command point structure you're going to get each turn, and because you're either just assaulting or advancing, so you're either just basically going out and attacking someone or you're going out and moving, it's pretty straightforward of a game. Because of that, your decisions are going to be optional. You're going to have multiple different things you can do. But it's a matter of timing your attacks, timing your command points and when to use them, and making sure, really making sure, to take advantage of your unit's abilities. And it all comes together very well. Our first game took us about an hour and a half, and that's just because we were learning the game, trying to figure it out, trying to see what worked well with other things, and using those pre-constructed armies. But once we started making our own armies, and once we started learning the rules, an hour is easy. Especially depending on the types of armies that you're going to go up against. We tried to play some pretty hefty armies where it was like 70 points against 70 points and we each only had 10 honor. And man, those can get done in like a half hour, and they're fun because you have so many different things on the board, but they're quick assaults. Now, this is not a full-scale war game where you're going to be like moving in all these units, strategically taking like 5 turns to flank someone and having some giant strategy pay off. It is very much a rush in, your opponent rushes in, and you're going to be attacking. In fact, if I can describe it to anything, because of the way the capture points are designed, it feels like a war game built around a capture the flag mentality. And that's not bad. In my opinion, when I played first-person shooters, I loved capture the flag. So this brought that back to me. And it made it very interesting to me because it was scratching the itch both from a war game perspective and from that capture the flag first-person shooter type perspective. Overall, we have had a really fun time with Ars Victor, a surprisingly fun time with Ars Victor. And I would highly recommend, if you have a chance, to check out their project, or even go as far as to download the game on their website at arsvictor.com, and you can check it out and play it for yourself. But until we see you next time, we'd love to hear your comments below here in the YouTube channel. You can, of course, find us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Google Plus by searching Crits Happen, or at our homepage at critshappen.com. But until we see you next time, we hope that you enjoy all your militaristic strategies inside the world of Ars Victor. Keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits.